The Oyo Empire was one of the most powerful and influential African states in pre-colonial West Africa, dominating the Yoruba people and influencing regions beyond its borders. Its rise and fall represent a significant chapter in African history, illustrating the dynamics of power, trade, warfare, and colonialism. The empire, founded around the late 14th or early 15th century, reached its peak between the 17th and 18th centuries. It was one of the largest and most organized empires in West Africa, known for its military prowess, political sophistication, and strategic use of cavalry in warfare. The empire's capital was Old Oyo, also known as Oyo Ife. Situated in modern-day Nigeria, which served as the center of political, military, and economic power. Oyo's political structure was well organized and centered around Alaafin, the king, who ruled with advice and checks of Oyomesi, a council of noblemen. This system created a balance between autocratic power and aristocratic influence. The empire expanded by the conquering neighboring states, and its control of trade routes allowed it to dominate commerce in the region. Oyo was a key player in the trans-Saharan trade, dealing in goods such as horses, salt, kola nuts, and tragically slaves. The Oyo Empire was distinguished by its intricate political hierarchy, which facilitated effective governance and centralized authority. Key titles within the empire include Alaafin. The Alaafin was the supreme ruler and king of the Oyo Empire, reserved as both political and spiritual leader, considered semi-divine. The Alaafin wielded significant influence over both domestic and external affairs, embodying the unity and continuity of the empire. The Basharon, serving as the head of the Oyomesi, a council of 7 principal advisors, the Basharon held substantial power. This position was pivotal in advising the Alaafin, dictating the dispute, and could even orchestrate the removal of the reigning Alaafin under specific circumstances. Are Ona Kakanfo, the highest military commander. The Are Ona Kakanfo was responsible for leading the empire's armies in warfare. This title was bestowed upon a distinguished and a capable warrior, symbolizing military excellence and strategic acumen. Osi Afa, a prominent officer within the Oyomesi. The Osi Afa managed internal affairs and supported the Basharon in governance. This role was essential for maintaining internal stability and implementing council decisions. The Abakin, another key member of Oyomesi. The Abakin dealt with the significant state matters, including economic policies and diplomatic relations. This position underscored the empire's emphasis on collaborative governance. Asepa, tasked with administrative and governance responsibility, the Asepa played a crucial role in the day-to-day operations of empire, ensuring that the Alaafin's directives were effectively executed. Ayolede, representing the interests of women, the Ayolede was the most powerful female title holder in the empire. This position wielded considerable influence in political and economic spheres, highlighting the role of women in Oyo society. Eso, military officers, a warlord who commanded specific army units. The Eso were instrumental in both defending the empire and facilitating its expansion through military campaigns. Baale, local rulers or governors of provincial towns and cities within the empire. Baales were responsible for maintaining law and order, collecting taxes, and ensuring loyalty to the Alaafin. By the 19th century, European colonial ambitions in Africa began to intensify, and Oyo Empire was already experiencing internal strength. European contacts, particularly through the Portuguese and later the British, initially boosted Oyo economy, especially through the slave trade. However, the destabilizing effect of European demands for slaves contributed to internal divisions and conflicts. The collapse of Oyo was hastened by the internal political struggles, rebellion from vassal states, and the rise of rival powers such as the Dahomey Kingdom. These internal conflicts weakened the central authority of Alaafin and made the empire more vulnerable to the external threats. The abolition of the transatlantic slave trade in the early 19th century also undermined the economic foundation of Oyo, as the empire had heavily relied on the sales of slaves for revenue. Oyo could not transition smoothly to other forms of trade or industry, causing economic instability as European colonial powers, particularly the British, began to carve out spheres of influence in West Africa. The political and economic pressure on Oyo increased. The final blow to the Oyo Empire came in the early 19th century when the internal strife, revolts from previously subdued states, and external invasion by the Fulani jihadis from the north led its downfall. The Fulani, led by the Afoja, a rebellious general within Oyo, captured Oyo as Old Oyo in 1835, effectively ending the empire's dominance. This Fulani invasion, combined with the internal betrayal, sparked the disintegration of Oyo's power. By the time the British colonizers arrived in full force later in the 19th century, Oyo had already been reduced to a share of itself. Under the British colonial rule, the remnants of Oyo Empire were further weakened as the British imposed their indirect rule system, which diminished the influence of traditional rulers. The British disregarded the political structure of the Oyo Empire, instead setting up colonial administrative units that served their interests. The once powerful Alaafin of Oyo became a mere ceremonial figure with no real authority. Colonial policies of dividing and ruling African kingdoms fractured the unity of Yoruba states, including Oyo, and diminished their significance. The legacy of Oyo Empire after colonization is complex. Why it ceased to exist as a political entity, its cultural and historical impact remains profound in modern Nigeria. The Alaafin of Oyo still holds a ceremonial position of influence within the Yoruba cultural sphere, symbolizing the continuity of tradition and the memory of empire's former glory. Oyo's contribution to Yoruba identity, language, and religion have persisted, and empire is still celebrated for its achievement in governance, trade, military, and organization. However, the fall of Oyo marked the beginning of a new era in Yoruba history, one in which colonial powers imposed artificial boundaries and disrupted centuries-old political systems. The weakening of Oyo and other African kingdoms made it easier for Europeans to exploit African resources and people. The colonization of Nigeria and the subsequent amalgamation of different ethnic groups into one colony buried empires potentials for survival under the weight of foreign domination. In conclusion, the Oyo Empire was a beacon of African greatness, demonstrating advanced political systems, military power, and economic wealth long before the arrival of European colonizers. Its fall, though precipitated by internal struggles and external forces, was hastened by the economic and political pressures of European colonization. Despite its collapse, the legacy of Oyo endures in the cultural and historical consciousness of the Yoruba people, serving as a reminder of African rich pre-colonial history and devastating impact of colonial interference. Thank you.